Good morning, Kyle.
Morning. Oh, my stock ticker just went away. My little
Oh,
tweet
yeah.
over there.
So we're coming to you just about a minute before the opening bell because today is Disney's earnings day, November 12th. They will announce the full earnings for their fiscal year, which runs approximately October through September. But that will be they'll announce after the bell closes at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. They'll do an earnings call at around 4:30. But we figured we would kind of preview what's going to happen. Right now, the stock market's down because there's talk of sort of more shutdowns across the country due to COVID. So the whole market's down. But the looks like Disney stock's down about $1.25 to 136.57. Not really a big deal in terms of the Disney. It's more of just an overall market trend. Interestingly enough, opening the New York Stock Exchange today is Six Flags, celebrating the holidays at the parks. So they're definitely trying to show that amusement parks are coming back, maybe not in California, but across the country.
The Disney stock is still up for the week, though, right? Because they had that nice run at the beginning of the week.
Yeah, they did have that nice run for the beginning. So it's around the beginning, let's say November 9th, they're around 125, and now they're up to like 137. So it's still up about $10, which is not insignificant. Still away from the 52-week high, which was around I want to say 150. I'm sure I can find that neighborhood. But obviously that is
better than 52-week low, which is down in the 90s. So
right. So obviously the high came before COVID, the low came at the worst part of COVID. And right now as we're watching as the market opens, the Dow's down about 160 points, but about half a percentage point. This is sort of a historic earnings announcement because this will be the last time that studios and television report out earnings as business units. Starting in the 2021 fiscal year, which I said began in October, all the profit and loss for media distribution will come from this new Disney Media Entertainment Distribution Group. And then, so the only folks that are actually making any money are them and Parks, Experiences, and Products. So you'll have, instead of having, 4 different segments reporting, you'll have 2. So expect a lot of questions about that as we move forward. They announced that about a month ago. So now, but this is the first time, at least publicly, they've been able to talk to analysts about it and kind of explain their thinking. I think Disney's always complained that Netflix gets valued at this level and Disney gets valued at this level. So basically they're saying you should value us at a Netflix level for that business and then throw in parks. So we should be worth more than Netflix as opposed to kind of being closely tied to them.
It's kind of funny because we've been listening recently to Disney War, and then as a follow-up almost, the Men Who Would Be King about DreamWorks.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of that same sort of envy about the internet bubble. And so it's that didn't work out so well as they ran into trying to go.com and pop.com. So hopefully this streaming war works out better for them.
Yeah, so Disney right now is worth $245 billion and Netflix is worth $218 billion. And obviously Netflix has a lot more subscribers, around the globe in terms of their direct-to-consumer business. But you feel like with parks, the franchises, merchandise, Disney would have a bit of a bigger difference between the two worths of the company.
You would think.
Netflix doesn't really own a lot of their stuff, right? They license it out from different creative engines.
It's growing every year, to be fair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So what do you expect to hear today?
Well, I don't think you needn't look further than the date to figure out what the headline is of this meeting is going to be. In
Right.
case you're not aware of what I'm alluding to, a Disney Plus debuted exactly a year ago today. So right now, it's not only the newest, biggest Disney venture, but it's also the one seemingly keeping their stock afloat. So I'm sure they will be trotting those numbers out, and otherwise, it's going to be interesting as far as kind of the ups and downs, because I feel like this fiscal year, because it began in October, they do have a bit of positive news at the beginning of the year. There, it'll be interesting to see how it evens out with the crap at the end, or the
Well, and
middle.
it's interesting. Um, it's also the end of the Verizon deal. So it'll be interesting to see. We won't know now what the numbers are because that'll be next quarter. But it's funny you mentioned how lucky Disney is that they launched Disney Plus when they did. I we deal with publicists for movies and stuff, and we emailed one of them, and we just got like a whole bunch of emails just right over. And I was like, "Wow, you're busy." And she goes, she's from the studios, and she goes, "Yeah, thank goodness for Disney Plus, because if you are a publisher of the studios and you only made movies for theaters, or you dumped them on DVD, it would not be, the career position would be a little different."
Yeah.
I do want to share, if you want to know how big Disney Plus is to the Walt Disney Company right now, I'll eventually I guess my Chrome window froze. So go to shopdisney.com and you will see the top story is what they're calling the hashtag Plusiversary, with a special Disney Plus key and special T-shirts to celebrate the occasion.
I knew about the key. Is this a different key than the one they're offering for free, or is this another one?
No, this is the free one.
Okay.
So it's free with any $25 purchase, but they also have a selection of T-shirts, one for each franchise. There's a whale for National Geographic, Forky for Pixar. Disney is
It's a nice upset for Forky, quite honestly.
What's that?
Nice upset for Forky.
Yeah. Olaf is for Disney. Mando, I think, for Star Wars, and then the Avengers logo for
Marvel.
For Marvel. But they what was I say? Oh, the one thing I do expect, sort of on the fun side of earnings announcements, is I do expect a WandaVision premiere date.
Yep, I was thinking the exact same thing.
But it feels like they want to save a lot for December 10th, which will be their big investor day, where they're going to focus on Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, Hulu, and Star. But I don't think the WandaVision date can wait till December 10th. So I think they'll announce that to kind of whet your appetite. Could be wrong. Don't at me if they don't release it. But
they made it clear that it's supposed to be this year still. So I think you're right. Like, I mean, unless they're going to drop it on December 10th as a surprise, they kind of would need to. Well, they actually don't need to announce it now. They don't need to do it in a big thing. They just need to send out a press release. But it seems appropriate while they're trying to hype investment in their company that they'd point to their first big Marvel series.
When what I find interesting is checking out what's trending on Disney Plus. And right now, obviously, Mandalorian's their big series. That's number one. The Simpsons is always right up there. Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Moana always performs well, which I'm a little surprised by. For the Frozen films, Jessie is always in like the top 10. Don't know why.
Well, let me tell you, as someone who just went to Disney on Ice, I can understand the Moana and Frozen because they were easily the biggest reaction as Mickey started to introduce their segments. So
yeah,
especially Frozen.
I just felt like when the movie came out, it wasn't. I mean, maybe just because it was when it came out and related to other movies that came out around it. Like, it was fine, but like it didn't seem as culturally relevant. Although I just came from Olani, where obviously Moana plays a big role, sort of in the merchandise and everything. The Clone Wars, the final season, which I find happily surprised. Prep and Landing, Toy Story 4, Once Upon a Snowman, Clouds, which seems like to be their most successful original movie thus far. I feel like a lot of the other ones just kind of
Original movie that they bought.
yeah, right. From our friends at Warner Brothers. Phineas and Ferb always does well. Incredibles, Onward, Toy Story, Coco, Avengers Endgame. Right Stuff is actually trending. And then Bluey, which is an Australian show, which I adore. I think it's very cute. But it does, and I'm surprised and happily surprised that it is always consistently in their trending list because it didn't get a lot. It got virtually no promotion, but it is a very cute show.
Can't say I've watched it.
I mean, you know, it was a good. I mean, it's a preschool show, so you know, it's not like Mandalorian. But
I think looking at that list, it's pretty interesting because you do see the kind of the range that Disney Plus has. People kind of assume that because it's just Disney, that it's only going to be people like us that are subscribing, but you really do have a range there from people that are sitting their kids in front of the TV and want to show preschool content to people who want to watch, you know, put on some comfort food and watch The Simpsons at night.
right.
So
Well, and it's interesting too is
a little
that
bit broader than people might give it credit for.
a year ago, I mean, you know, it's funny. A lot of people that were involved in Disney Plus a year ago are no longer there. But you know, because we didn't have really a Marvel coming online yet, a lot of the stuff that we talked about, you know, Disney Plus was this like documentary series and things like that, which never seemed to gain a lot of traction on Disney Plus. You know, the game shows and stuff like Road Trip. Not that they're bad because I enjoy them, but they just because they were trying to kind of I think run before they could walk. You know, they just threw a lot to the wall, which a lot of it just didn't seem to work. But or at least didn't seem to catch on. Now I don't know what their purpose was in it, but I think you're going to see a lot more investment in big content, and also stuff, you know, like more on the Disney Channel side and stuff like that. You know, that Clouds demo. Not, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out if it's successful. It's successful, but I do hope they keep the sort of behind the scenes stuff as well, like you know, Imagineering Story and the better part of that stuff. I don't know. I need any more one day at Disney's, but you know, like the Into the Unknown Frozen story or Imagineering Story, stuff like that. I think is
And Prop Culture was good too. I don't know if that doesn't quite fit in the same thing since it wasn't like behind the scenes at Disney specifically, but
oh yeah, I think Pop Culture was great as well. It's weird because you know we don't know like a lot of the shows we don't know if they're renewed or canceled because they can't produce them right now. You know, so it's interesting. You know, it'll be interesting to see what happens when the world gets back to normal. Will those shows come back, or will they just sort of give up on them, or what's the content structure? We're probably not going to get that today. Probably more of a December 10th thing. But as a Disney Plus business, you want to. I'm curious to see where they're going to invest in original content. There's no question that they're going to invest more in Disney Plus. I mean, I think that's pretty clear, and they're sort of signaling, but we don't know what level, and we don't know what they're going to do with it.
yeah. I mean, I would also not be surprised if they had some stuff banked. Like they said they're releasing all the episodes of Prop Culture, but they might have already produced or partially produced another season and we just don't know about it. So
yeah, and
like that's why I always think it's funny with Netflix and Queer Eye is it's like you go to this one town and you shoot 2 seasons, so clearly we know you're going to get renewed for another season because you already shot it.
right.
Like it takes 2 years for those shows to come out sometimes, but
Well, that's what's funny. Like with Animaniacs, there's no question that if Animaniacs was produced today, like if they decide to make it today, it would be on HBO Max. But Hulu kind of locked them in early when Time Warner owned part of Hulu, and then they got 2 seasons in it, so they'll do a season this year and a season, you know, some point next year. I don't know if they'll be able to keep it or if they'll move to HBO Max in a similar way it moved from Fox Kids to Kids WB. But it's weird how the delays in these services coming online created some weird I mean, even just with like the Marvel Netflix shows, right? Like those wouldn't have happened if Disney Plus was envisioned 5 years ago. But also, I don't know that we would have learned the lessons we learned with those in terms of like people really want it involved in the MCU if they did it that way. You know, we might have just.
But I think there is, because even though every company has their own streaming service and people are just going to assume that they're only going to make their own content, we've actually seen that that's not 100% true, because like you mentioned, they bought Clouds from Warner Brothers, and isn't it Diary of a Female President is produced by CBS?
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like those happened early on. I don't know that CBS is making a huge investment into their Paramount Plus now, or CBS All Access, as it's called today. I don't know that HBO Max would have had Clouds, but I feel like even in Bob Chapek's comments, like it's going to be about content they own. I think Diary of a Future President, even at the time they announced it, was like, yeah, we just need stuff. We don't expect this to happen in the future.
Well, I think it's always
And
been the same way, like with the networks, though. You look at that, sometimes they end up with a show that they like, it doesn't quite fit their audience, and so then they're willing to sell it because then they'll get a piece of it. So I don't think that that's going to be zero. I think it's
I
going to
don't
be
think, I don't think it's going to be zero, but I think it's going to be a lot less because right now, even just like the general entertainment group at Disney, like they don't even have a network anymore. Like they're producing the shows, so it's not even about. It's about making stuff for them as much as it used to be based on you had the studio side and you had the network side, and they would sell it to the network, and if the network didn't want it, they would send it to someplace else. Like right now, I feel like it's more about like we're gonna make stuff for us. Let's figure out where to put it. I'm not saying it's they're never gonna say like, oh, this is a great sci-fi concept. Let's send it to a sci-fi channel or something. I'm not saying that's a zero, but I
I'm
think
thinking of
it's
the
gonna be a
opposite,
lot
is
less.
people bringing stuff to them and then being like,
Mm.
"Oh, we do like this."
Yeah,
Well,
but it's there used to be a time when there was a rule or law or regulation, whatever you want to call it, where like a network schedule could only have a certain percentage from one producer. And that kind of went away just as Disney was buying ABC. And
that's why
forever,
Disney
like
bought ABC.
what's that?
That's kind of why Disney bought ABC.
Right. And then but forever they're like, no, we're gonna make the best network schedule we can. We're gonna get it from other people. If it happens to be our stuff, great. That tone has changed dramatically. Like they don't even care about network schedules anymore, right? Like, I mean, I think based on what you look at what's successful on ABC lately, it's gonna be like a lot of live stuff. It's gonna be award shows, sports, 2020 specials, and like that's what's doing well on ABC now. But
And some of you're talking about weird situations with past production company deals. I think it's weird that Malcolm in the Middle is on Disney Plus, but The Middle isn't, because that was Warner Brothers. And
yeah.
I think I don't even know if it's on a free streaming platform. I think you can only do like a per episode or per season purchase.
Oh, really? I wonder if that went into the role of not picking up the spinoff. Because like I think Disney regrets not owning Shark Tank because Shark Tank is everywhere and it's like a brand in and of itself, but it's a Sony property, and they it's successful enough that they put it on Fridays and that's great, but they don't. I, they would love that CNBC money, coming in from showing Shark Tank every day from 8 to 10 Eastern.
Oh, there was like a marathon this weekend.
Oh yeah. It's kind of like if you watch ABC News Live, which is like Disney's digital news service, the weekends is all like John Quinones and What Would You Do? Like unless there's like breaking news, it's just like a complete marathon of What Would You Do?
Yeah, they always take them to the same restaurant in that show. I'm like, do people not, what restaurant is this that you people don't recognize that this is the What Would You Do set?
I that show makes me very uncomfortable because like I don't know that I want to know what I would do, but I I don't watch it. regularly, unless I have the news on and ABC decides that it's time for another episode of What Would You Do?
It's a news adjacent show, I guess, so it counts.
So, I mean, today's earnings is going to be a little complicated just because they're going to want to hold stuff for their big December 10th. They're going to say that like 18 times. It's like,
Every
we'll reveal
that. Yeah, it's going to be about something that they're going to say, well, we'll talk about that on December 10th.
Right. And, a lot of the questions we used to have, like sort of annual questions or quarterly questions, like who's going to replace you, that we had with Bob Iger, is no longer on the table. We don't need updates on the 21st Century Fox acquisition or, when's Disney going to go direct to consumer? Probably going to get a lot of COVID parks questions.
And I think, we usually get a lot of ESPN questions. I think we're definitely going to get questions about this football deal potentially for Thursday Night Football.
Which, of course, they're going to say nothing about, right?
Right.
But you're in the middle of negotiations, going to be like, oh, no, we're going to bid $120 billion or whatever. Like
they've said before, they're interested in expanding their relationship with live sports. And they're going to leave it at that until the deal gets done.
And it'll be interesting. It's funny. I look at where they were when they negotiated this Monday night deal, and moved it to ESPN because they were worried about like Monday Night Football would air from, September to December, and then like ABC had no traction on Monday night. Like it was just they would just put stuff on Mondays but it didn't get anywhere because like it wasn't on for the whole season. And then, the idea was they could raise ESPN's rates because people wanted to watch Monday Night Football. They overpaid because, they were trying to make up for the fact that they were cable. But now you fast forward and, ABC wants live stuff as much as possible. And so now I don't even know what's on ABC, Dancing with the Stars, right? Like television has completely changed where we do pods of shows. We don't have reruns and now football on ABC makes a whole lot more business sense than it did whenever Monday Night Football moved to ESPN.
I will say that's like one of my least favorite things about Fox is that on Sunday, like their Sunday shows like The Simpsons and Bob's Burgers regularly get bumped in September and October because of baseball.
That is true, but at least you get the same number. Like it just means less reruns.
I know, but it means I have to you get 3 episodes in and then you have to wait.
Yeah, well, I feel like now they love it when there's like breaking news because it means it's one episode of television they can save in their little like nest, and kind of as they kind of dull it out, because with all, there's even more production shutdowns this week with COVID, so it's like they'll
just bump Shark Tank to 2 hours later and then interrupt it again.
Not that you're bitter.
Not that I'm bitter.
It's funny. As soon as I saw a special report was coming, I was like, "Oh, Kyle's gonna be upset." Kyle, the last millennial to watch linear television.
Well, the rest of the week they had been doing the 2020 specials and at 10 p.m. or whatever, and then this one they decided to move up, but that was stupid because then Biden came out to speak at 10 something anyway. So
not to rag on our new president, but like they announced that he was going to speak like at approximately 8 p.m. So I think that's why they did it.
Okay. I didn't know all the backstory. I just knew that.
Yeah, but then he much like everything in 2020, it was running late. I feel like it's also funny how in 2020 we get more episodes of 2020 than we could ever possibly dream of.
I want to know who decides when those air because it seems very random. Whether they're going to do a repeat or whether they're going to, oh, hey, we finally finished packaging this together. Let's run this. Like sometimes they correspond to things, but they announce them on Monday for Friday. It's kind of crazy. Yeah,
I think they always have a plan, but they want to wait to make sure there's not some crazy breaking news that they're going to preempt it for, because even this week's 2020, when we got the press release, it says like this was supposed to air on Friday, but like last Friday, they never put out the press release saying that, but we're like, oh, okay, so you had a plan. You just didn't. You just figured maybe with the election, So
yeah, if a big enough celebrity dies, then they'll spend 2 hours on that instead of looking at a murder case from a decade ago.
Yeah, 2020 is is three things. It's true crime, it is a celebrity died, and it is like when there's breaking news and they want to have George Stephanopoulos anchor something, but they don't know what to call that thing. So they call it a special edition 2020.
I always like the true crime ones because I wonder how the same three people know about every single crime that's ever happened. Like the guy that used to be on MTV, I'm just like, oh yeah, you're well versed. You know exactly what this person was thinking and what they were like as a person.
It's like I don't watch like a lot of 2020 because it's Friday night and I got a life. But I always think it's funny how it's like you won't, the new interview that will change your world. And I was like, I don't think so. Like, I don't like, you never wake up on Saturday morning and be like, oh my gosh, did you see 2020 last night? My whole perspective on life has changed.
Because Nancy Grace yelled at me through the TV.
She does that. So let's do one last check of the stock market. We've got Disney stock is now down. I'm in the wrong app. Disney stock is down $1.65, a little bit worse than it was. Oh nope, 79 cents. So making some headway back. Dr. Fauci was on ABC's Good Morning America this morning, coincidentally, and I guess gave some encouraging news, but I think Wall Street's trying to balance that out with the sort of increased caseload as well as new calls for lockdowns. So
can I give some advice to people who may be thinking about investing in Disney stock?
Absolutely.
Don't act like the market. Just put in your money and like keep an eye on the news. Like if Disney's about to go bankrupt, maybe think about getting out. But otherwise, just wait. Like you don't need to react to every little thing. You can just continue.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good call. I mean, it's fun to watch it from like a Disney observer perspective because you want to see how people think world events will apply to Disney. But in terms of your money, don't take it in and take it out. Like that's kind of silly. Like over long term, unless it's like Sears.
Yeah.
You should be okay. And you'll know long before it reaches zero that, hey, I should probably get out of this, especially if you're a Disney fan, because when if Disney's about to go bankrupt. And just be, it's funny to me because the parks will come back. COVID will end one way or the other. And, when that happens, the stock's going to go through the roof, but it's just a question of like, how long you're willing to wait for that to happen. But now the Dow's down 200 points. I guess Chairman of the Fed, Jerome Powell, speaking today. So that'll probably impact where the market lands. We will be back at probably around 12:30 Pacific. We'll start live blogging the earnings call, getting anticipation of that. And then we will be back at an unscheduled time for after the earnings call to discuss the earnings announcement as well as any news revealed during the earnings call. Anything you got to say before we wrap up, Kyle?
Nope. Be sure to check out laughingplace.com for the live blog.
And that's about it. So thanks so much for joining us. And we will talk to you a little in just a few hours. Bye, everybody.
Bye again.
This is what happens when your Chrome tab shares and you can't hit end broadcast.